Up next on Inside ChampCar, hot in Houston. Welcome to Inside ChampCar. I'm Brian Bielanski. He is Bill Strong. Hi, Bill.
Hi.
How are you?
Tired.
Tired.
But I'm always tired, so, you know.
Tired? How much weight did you lose this weekend in Houston?
Not a lot, because I just sat in air conditioning all day.
Oh, so you got nothing to complain about.
No, I shot pictures out windows because it was nice and cool in there.
So you were a wussy all
I went
weekend.
outside. No, I went outside.
Okay. One guy who wasn't is the badass in the big picture.
Yes. Yeah.
Ben Marquart.
Yep.
Welcome, Ben.
Thank you. Thank you.
Longtime ChampCar racer, ChampCar racer. Been with us since sort of the beginning. So, Ben, this past weekend you were an arriving driver this weekend. You happened to, I don't know, win a race. But
it's becoming
part of the team that won a race. Yeah, that's kind of a big thing.
But before we get to that.
Yeah. Tell us how you got started in motorsports. Thanks, Brian.
How far back you want to go? You want to go
all the way? All the way back.
All the way.
All right.
We go all the way.
All the way. Oh, I like that. It's good. Well, I'll say I actually grew up at the local circle track with my dad and my uncles. So I'm from Buffalo, New York, and anyone from the Western New York area might know of Lancaster Speedway, which is might be older than you, Bill.
Maybe.
No, it's not.
Maybe.
It can't be.
Maybe. I don't know if they invented asphalt back then.
Yeah, 1962. There was asphalt.
But yeah, I grew up at the track with my dad, and my uncles and stuff, and they were, I think it was strictly stocks, which is basically, I think they had like an old like 77 Monte Carlo. And really that to me, that's like the original, like the OG of what we do now, right? It's just the circle track stuff. Just slap a cage in whatever jalopy you can find and you rip it around circles, right? And that was basically it. So, I mean, at that point, it was really, for me, it was the beginning of the end. I have an older brother who doesn't really, cars aren't his thing.
What?
But I know.
Yeah, I have a younger brother like that too. He tried, but no.
No, my brother, he drives a Jeep and he loves his Jeep, and that's
my brother too.
So, and then let's see, kind of what else. I've always kind of just been into it. My dad was, the circle track stuff, so he was always into NASCAR. And then kind of, I realized that road racing was pretty sweet. And then when I, got out of college and got a job, I tried to figure out how to scrape together as many pennies as I could. And, then, Chump and Lemons happened, and scraped some pennies with some other friends. And, that was back when, you could legitimately be in a car on track for like $2,000.
Right.
Right.
Straight, like legit.
Yep.
And it was really all you were allowed to spend anyway, right? The most expensive part was the cage and the seat.
Yep.
So,
and even the seats were kind of iffy too at that time.
Oh yeah.
Which is basically a cage.
If I remember, I want to say that like the very first Lemons race, which I didn't do, but I think the very first Lemons race, you were allowed to run stock seats, like just original stock seats.
Yes.
I think, and I'm not sure if Chump did that in the very beginning as well, but.
I don't think I'm just going by the rule book. If I remember right, I think you could, but it had to be welded.
Yeah, that sounds about right. The sliders had it. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, the bat, you couldn't have it, reclining and all that. So
yeah.
But hardly anybody had that. Well, on the East Coast, most guys didn't do that. I mean, Ed might have, but no, even Ed wouldn't have done that. I think he would have had a little aluminum seat in that Infiniti.
Yeah, I mean, you could buy an aluminum seat back then for $50.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You put.
That's before anybody knew the value of all this junk, and then all of a sudden, Lemon
or the value
of car,
or the value of our lives.
Yeah. Well, no, it's there was so much junk out there. You could pick it up everywhere. RacingJunk.com and just the used parts place. We were picking up all kinds of stuff, pennies on the dollar. And then they discovered, Miatas were cheaper than hell. And you could do this and build a car for, like you said, less than $2,000. I mean, my first Chump car was the black Mark 1 MR2. With all the parts I had laying around, I may have spent, I don't know, $400, maybe, because I already had the car.
Right,
You know,
right.
I had a two. We did a swap with a 2.2 because that's all I had. 2.2 liter Toyota engine.
All you had.
No, it's all I had. I didn't have any I didn't have any 4AGs that worked. All my 4AGs were blown up. So we knew that, and that's what the engine we were running in our Lemons cars were the 2.2s. So yeah, we did that, and then I think a transmission was the most I had to buy.
Fun stuff.
That was the biggest thing I had to buy, in a clutch, because we went out and test drove the clutch with Troy. There's a video out online, the first drive of the car, and the clutch just slipped everywhere. And Troy came out. He was so mad at me. Did you test this? I'm like, this is like a week before the race, you know, before where did we first race at? VIR. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I didn't. Or maybe it's Sebring. No, it's Sebring. No, it's VIR. And the first 24-hour we did there with ChampCar.
Yeah. Before we get into all the ChampCar stuff, that's all fascinating.
Yeah, I know.
But Delorean Motor Company.
No. Before that. Karma.
Before that?
The Karma.
The Karma.
To me, the Karma is such a sexy beast.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys.
So what's the timeline? It's Karma, then level. DeLorean?
Yeah.
Well, let me blow your mind here for a second. There's a couple in between. So actually, that guy right there, that was at Celine. So I worked at Celine on that car. That's the Pernelli Jones edition Mustang.
Okay.
And the S7. I don't have.
Oh, the S7.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I've had an unbelievably, fortunately cool professional career.
Oh no, that's why we don't care about the NASCAR or the ChampCar stuff.
We're
here to talk to you about the other stuff.
Yeah. Right. So I mean, really, the funny thing is that's where I worked on the S7 race car. That was really at that place. I was like, I'm gonna race.
So did you work with Steve?
Hmm?
I was working a corner 11 at Road Atlanta once, and one of his customers smashed up one of his brand new, rolled it 3 times, a brand new, right out of the factory, right to the racetrack race car. And I get there with my little fire bottle as a corner worker, and the guy's rolled over. He's on his lid, and I tell him not to pop his seat belts, and of course he does. Boom, head right to the top, and he gets out, and he's looking at the car, and he's like, this is the coolest thing that's ever happened to me. I said, whatever you do, don't say that to Steve Celine. Whatever you do, act like you're sore, like you're upset. Don't say that to Steve.
Was it an S7 or was it a Mustang?
It was a Mustang.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. It was good stuff.
So there, so started at Celine.
Yep.
Right. Let's see. Yeah. Right. That's a cool one.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then let's see, where to go to Celine. Then I worked in defense. I worked on military.
On a fence. On a fence.
Sometimes it felt like I was on a fence, honestly. I'd rather be on a fence. We worked on JLTV, which is supposed to be like the Humvee replacement, but I mean, come on, nothing's gonna replace the Humvee, right? I think sweet. It's awful and awesome at the same time. It's really weird, like dichotomies, right?
Hey, Arnold likes it, so it can't be getting better,
Let's see. And then where did I go after Celine? A couple consultancies, a couple random places, and then I started getting into the startup world. That's when I moved back to California after being in Detroit for defense. And then I was, a couple startups. I ended up at Karma. So
what was that like? What was Karma like?
I mean, it's the startup world, right? Yeah. So for any of those that may be watching, all 20, 30 people maybe that watch that maybe have ever been in startup world, I don't even need to tell you, they all know. But it's it's awesome. It's kind of like the Humvee. It's awesome and awful at the same time, right? Because there's a lot of it's awesome because you can do so much, right? There's always stuff that has to get done. There's never enough people. There's never enough time. There's never enough money. Right? That's the startup life. And so you can get your fingers into a lot of different things that you probably wouldn't be able to if you worked at Toyota or Honda or Ford or GM. You do this thing, and that is the thing you do, and you do not even think about other things, right? And so what you're allowed to kind of get involved with and be a part of is really, really, really great. And it doesn't hurt that the car is absolutely spectacularly beautiful. So,
Right.
Yeah,
you know,
that was the thing. It was just I think that's just one of the best design cars out there. Just the
yeah,
style, I should say, style.
yeah.
But
So,
but yeah, so that going back to that, you know, when you work for another company, I have friends that I've met through this industry that, you know, designed a dashboard for Toyota, and that's all they did for a while, and they moved on to something else, but it was some sort of interior piece.
yeah,
And then another guy that works at Ford transmissions, and that's what he focuses on. Now I think he's doing electric. I think he did the stuff for the electric MWR, or not MWR, the heck, uh, Watson Racing. What's it? Whatever. But he's like the electric motor designer or
oh,
powertrain for
no, you
Ford,
just,
the
I know, yeah,
F-150.
I know who you're talking
Boy,
about.
we're all
You
acting really old
you
here.
screwed it up. You screwed it up. Jamie actually introduced me to him years and years ago
Yeah.
when Jamie went back to Detroit for a hot second. Jamie Wolak, right? And he's like, I'm gonna go back to Detroit, and I was like, good luck. And then I think it was like 8 months later, he's like, I'm coming back. I'm coming back right now.
Yeah.
And
Guino Watson Racing.
yeah, Will.
Yeah, Will Guano. Yeah. So and the Watson guy worked at the Corvette race shop up in wherever that is, the Lamar, you know, the IMSA
Pratt
Corvette
Miller.
shop. Yeah,
Yeah,
Pratt
Pratt
Miller.
Miller.
Yeah, he
Yep.
worked there.
Yep.
So, and I met him first when he was at University of Maryland, when they were doing Formula SAE, because I was on the judging crew for that.
Got it.
So, yeah, that was it's a small world, you know, with all
It's a
these
tiny
people
world.
you meet and stuff.
I tell those people all the time, automotive, I mean, like there's got to be a couple million people that work in the automotive industry globally, right? Millions. And it's a lot smaller world than you think. And
Yeah.
then you get into the startup world and it's even smaller
It's
yet,
smaller. Yeah.
right?
Right.
So yeah, it's I know a lot of people that work at Rivian, that work at Lucid,
Right.
you know Tesla, you name it. I
Yeah.
know a ton of people that work there. So
Yeah, one of my good friends was the head of marketing at Tesla at one point. He's in a book.
They don't do
Mentioned a few
marketing at
times.
Tesla, I thought.
Not anymore. But he was there in the beginning with Mr. Musk.
yeah.
And doesn't speak very highly in his autobiography. But yeah, it's yeah, he's an MR2 guy. And it's amazing how many guys are in this you know, in these automotive fields that at one point were on our message board called the MR2 OC. And they've gone on to do great things. Billy Johnson, Ford test driver, MR2 guy when he was a kid.
MR2 guy.
Bill finds a way to bring every podcast back to MR2.
MR2s. Next week, it'll be Opals.
With a little bit of MR2.
With a little bit, yeah. So now you're working at a really cool startup with gull wing doors, 88 miles an hour.
Indeed.
You said the what was it? Time travel and flying. That the time travel sorted. It's the flying part that you're having problems with.
Well, I'd say, productionizing the flying is the challenge. On the racetrack, we have figured out how to fly a car, no problem. Got that?
Yes, yes. Now let's segue into that, and now we go into back to ChampCar, and I don't know, folks. You guys, all 11,000 of you guys watching, or 12,000 now, big jump, watching. Back when ChampCar transitioned over to ChampCar, there was a television show made about us called the ChampCar Championship, and the opening scene shows your car flying at Laguna Seca.
I texted Wilson. He was my co-owner. Him and I started Alchemy Autosport, Miata PI, together, and he was. I was thinking in the beginning, right? So he was in the car. I texted him. I was like, "Hey, you should tune into this podcast." So Wilson, if you're listening, very specifically bringing this up. Yeah, it was, and I also have to little shout out to the Flying Hawaiian,
Yes,
and Two White Guys team that had the video. Actually, it was, what'd you call that? It was like a illegal video at the time because the camera was like in the bumper, and you weren't allowed to have anything outside of the cage.
Right. Yeah, I did the same thing. So
You know?
yeah. Oh yeah, people
You
complain
can't
about
see
it all
it.
the time. Yeah. Well, mine was actually outside the car.
Yeah, and the let's see what it was. I think I want to say it was like lap 4 or 5. It was within the first 20, 30 minutes, right? So Laguna Seca, it was the back then we called them championships, right? I always like that
Yep.
play on words. 2015, and yeah, when he called in, he's like had some light contact, comes in the front wheel.
Wait. I want to what light contact. You said right? Light contact.
So I heard. So,
Yeah.
the original radio in was there's some light contact. I'm going to come in and so we can check it out, right? It was like absolutely not. We're going for the win, baby, because that was also back then when it was part for May in
Yep.
2 days,
Yeah, because
right?
I was there as well. So my car was there racing.
That's right.
Yes.
So yeah, he comes in, the wheels, kind of look like one looks like that. And I've got pictures of it too. Let's see, the control arms were just absolute pretzels, and the damper was blown out, just absolutely blown out. The shaft was bent, and I was like, "Hey, how did it drive?" He's like, "Terribly." And we just bent the tie rod, so we just threaded it in as far as we possibly could because it was like 3.5 inches toe out, right? And we
Yeah.
just threaded that bad boy in all the way. And I was like, I don't know, like go give it a lap and see how it
Just
goes.
go.
And the radio was in, and he's just like, honestly, it's not that bad.
Well, if you would have taken the other side and gone a couple inches toe in, it would have been great to make left-hand turns.
Now then your drivers are complaining the steering wheel's not straight.
Like the wheels like this.
Exactly.
You can't win with drivers, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
When we watched that video, I remember because we got to see a pre-production version, before it went to Discovery.
Mhm.
And we're watching this video and it's like, oh, great opening. Oh, oh shit. Oof. Like, we're so trying to not say Champ Car or Chump Car is a contact sport. And what's the thing that happens? Boom.
I remember that. I remember we talked about that. I don't know if, I'm sure Billy, you and I talked about it back in the, back then it was like, I'm not sure this is the message that we're trying to put out.
No.
Leave
But,
it to the producer to find the best piece of video to put in the first 5 minutes of the show.
And and they over and over and
Of
over
course.
again. It's like boom.
That's our
boom.
job.
And then, anybody that just, you saw a car like go, want to do one of these things, and they when they add music to it
and slow it down.
and there's an abrupt and they slow it down, there's an abrupt change of direction. It looks like somebody hit. And of course it was the whole time we're just like, oh, I don't know, man. I don't know. But hey, it's on at 3:30 in the in the morning on a Sunday morning. Nobody's going to watch this. It was their highest rated show of the year at that time slot.
Yep.
At 3 a.m.
And you got 400.
99% chump car racers that stayed up late to watch it.
They all thought they were showing up for a B movie and then realized it was a very different show.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because the show was made over 2 years because I'm racing in part of it. And the next part, I'm actually working it.
Mm.
So you see me at a couple times doing interviews and doing my stuff. And Mike's the CEO at the time. And before that, I was there. Mike wasn't even at the track. So yeah, it was a pretty interesting way of producing it. My first time ever involved with working on a docu-follow. So, and it was a docudrama follow. So
yeah,
because that was what it was all about, was a drama. That's why so many people come up to us and ask, hey, I want to do a TV show. And I'm like, dude,
no.
Unless you're going to have like, wrenches flying across a room, every other scene, mad tryst with some of the racers, which, is never going to happen. Or you never know. But, Jimmy, tripping and falling everywhere, hoisting the mast or whatever, it ain't going to happen.
You tell them they can do a behind the scenes of Inside ChampCar. Yeah,
they could. Yeah. Just, opposite sides of the country. I'd like to see the crew for that one.
Exactly. So Ben, you're now working on the DeLorean.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, so that's got to be a kind of trippy, right?
Yeah. I got to tell you, when we're talking about all these cool things I've been able to do professionally, this might take the cake. I think so far. Also I run all of engineering at this point, so it's kind of cool. And I'll be the first to admit that it's a lot of pressure, right? This isn't, like Brian, Ben, and Bill's new startup company. Nobody gives a shit what happens and what it looks like or anything about it. Like everybody's watching.
Yeah.
I was even just I just received a letter. Actually, this is one of my favorite things about it. I just got a letter. This is like the third or fourth letter that we've gotten from a kid actually over in England. And on the back of it, it's got a little thing printed out. It's got a picture of this kid. I think his name's like Hugo or something. Super British name.
Yeah.
It's from his dad, Hector. It's his little note says they go, "Hey, like if you guys could respond, it would absolutely make his day. If you really wouldn't mind, I know you guys are really busy." And you pull it out, and the kid's probably 6, maybe 7 years old, and it is in crayon. Dear DeLorean team, I designed a car for you. I hope you can make it. You can have all of they're all free. And then you flip it over, and it's just the most adorable thing, right?
That's
It's
cool.
like I remember being a little kid
Yeah.
and drawing cars, right? We had notebooks at school,
Sure.
right? And stuff like that. And so to have those things come in, it's a really awesome feeling to know that like little kids are excited about what we're doing. But at the same time, I'm like, I can't let down 7-year-old me.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so, but no, it is honestly, it's really great, to bring the brand back, something that, and if you really think about brands that have come and gone over the years in automotive and kind of the story behind them, nobody, and I always use the example of Bricklin. Not nobody, very few people remember what Bricklin was,
Oh,
right? They had gullwing doors, right?
Right.
yep.
Which is cool. Nobody knows what a Bricklin is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, I'm old too. So, and I lived in England. So I saw a lot of Bricklands. A lot of pilots in the UK bought Bricklands.
Because they were like
Okay.
Breitling.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Because it was, they're pilots.
Right.
They're fighter pilots. So, they buy
Yeah.
the coolest sports car. I had another pilot friend that had a Lotus Europa
Yeah.
that I almost bought, but I couldn't afford $1,500 to buy it because,
Sure.
I was just a lowly airman.
Sure.
But
So
yeah.
Ben, is the new car going to be inspired by the original? Is it going to be a replica? Is it going to be a whole new something with just the idea of a rear engine and an aluminum or a stainless steel body? What do we think? What can you tell
do they
us?
come in
It's
colors?
just the three of us. What can you tell us?
Well, right. Shh, don't tell anyone.
That's right. It's just the three of us here.
Well, the good news is the cat is already out of the bag. We actually debuted the Alpha 5 last year at Pebble Beach. And so you can look that up. Bill, I told you in Houston, being in the technical side of the business, we are generally under relatively strict orders from the people who are more genetically set up to speak to other humans.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. So
there's a whole section of Office Space about that.
yes,
You have a
correct.
guy that
Mhm.
talks to the engineers, from the bosses to the engineers, because you don't want the bosses talking to the engineers.
It was
Which-
the
or
same
something like
thing in
that.
Ford versus Ferrari, right?
Yeah.
They-
Oh,
they-
yes, that's right.
They wanted Shelby doing the talking because you certainly didn't want Miles doing it.
Yeah.
My world, we as engineers, we are all basically just a bunch of Ken Mileses. We're
Right.
a pain in the ass, right? We all know everything, no matter what anybody else says, And so then you get people that dress nicely, and they don't really tend to like that kind
Yeah.
of mentality. So
That's good stuff.
So are you guys like Microsoft or Apple? Is it Apple that everybody just showed up in shorts and t-shirts? Is it that kind of startup, or are you guys all professional?
no,
guys?
it is an in between, right? I will say I don't mind wearing a t-shirt to work. There's not it's not like it used to be back in the day where I haven't worn a suit. I think the last time I wore a suit was it's either a wedding or like last year at Pebble Beach I had to wear a suit, right? For like the debut event.
I think I saw you there in the background at one of the videos that I saw on the web. 'Cause that
Probably.
was such a cool, the way you guys did that. That was such a cool
Yeah.
little preview.
Yeah. It was awesome. So
Yeah.
so the Alpha 5, it comes in colors.
Okay.
It has gullwing doors. It is electric, and
Is the
it's
electric motor in back or the front?
both.
Ooh.
Yeah, all-wheel drive. So, I mean, here's the thing. As an electric car, it's the standard architecture, right? That's actually as an engineer and so my background's actually in powertrain, right? Specifically high voltage systems and in electrified powertrains. One of the beauties of electrification for cars on our side of things, like forget how you feel about electric cars, right? And I actually have this conversation sometimes with my dad, where he's like, they're cramming it down everybody's throat. They're pieces of shit. I'm like, well, yeah, fair enough. But it's just so much easier for us because to make a motor more powerful, you've flown a little bit more voltage. Maybe you extend the stack length of the rotor. Boom, more horsepower, right? More kilowatts.
Right.
In an engine, you want to go from a 6 to an 8. That's a big deal.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not. I mean, sure, maybe you're just adding 2 more cylinders on a 6 to an 8 for a V, but it's
I
still
mean,
there's a lot more involved. You know,
Chrysler did it with the V10.
that's true,
Yeah. Not a-
right? And I think it's
Of
the
course, they had to send it to Lamborghini to actually get it working. But hey, you know,
I want to say it's the 4.3 V6 Chevy engine from like the 80s
Yep.
into the 90s.
By the way,
was the
was 6 cylinders of the 350.
exactly
yeah.
left it off.
And one of the best motors Chevy ever made, by the way. I had that 4.3 motor in a pickup truck, and
Yeah, I've had a bunch of them.
they're just bulletproof.
So
just
it's so
bulletproof.
good that I know a racer. His last name might be Riley. I don't know. he wanted to take a, and he's probably going to kill me for this. He wanted to take a Chevy van. What are those little vans called?
Astrovan?
Yeah, the Astrovan.
Yep.
He said the front suspension on that is what they used on a winning Trans Am chassis.
Oh,
The geometry's perfect.
okay.
And that he was going to take the 4.3 or whatever that
4.3.
Vortec
Yep.
V6, put it in back with a short little drive shaft, and have a mid-engine minivan with a roof. You know, Riley cuts the roofs off everything and have it turbocharged because they take turbo really well.
Yeah.
So,
I
but not as good as electric.
Well, so Ben, I'm just thinking, an electric DeLorean. Isn't that kind of in the spirit of what DeLorean was at the start? Not talking about Back to the Future. I'm talking about just the idea of being innovative with a stainless steel body and all of that. I mean, a DeLorean, we laugh because of what we know the history of, and it didn't work as well as John DeLorean wanted it to.
It was the Peugeot. Was it Peugeot V6 in the back of it?
PRV. It was somehow Peugeot, Renault, and Volvo somehow got together and said, let's take all of our worst engine people, put them in a room together, and see what they come up with. And then John DeLorean was like, I'm in. I want something.
But my point is that there was a lot of innovation in that car.
Yeah.
And when you think of this project now with electric, it's kind of like in the spirit of what John DeLorean was all about, right?
Yeah.
Right. And honestly, that's a big part of where like the responsibility things comes in, because a lot of people are like, well, it's going to look exactly like a DMC 12, right? And it's going to be stainless steel and we're like, well, we're not trying to do a knockoff, right? You know, because one, it would be disingenuous, first of all, right? To do like just, you know, even to do a replica would be a bit disingenuous to a certain extent, right? Unless it was actually like a flat out true replica for that purpose and that purpose alone. But you know, so you know, we definitely felt that, you know, electric was where it was at. It absolutely makes sense. You know, it also will make some regulatory compliance a lot easier as well, right? California,
Stop picking on us,
among others. And so, and you know, you're right. It is very much on brand. And so, what we've been doing is how do we honor the brand and the DNA of the brand and the legacy, but not just phone it in and make the body stainless steel again. Right. So, you know, it's been, I think, let's see, the questions I always get asked, right? There's like 4 or 5 questions I always get asked. So obviously gull wing doors. Yes, keeping those. 2, stainless steel. No. I understand the Cybertruck and Elon and Tesla, stainless steel, but that shit sucks. Okay. It's heavy and it's not for an electric car. Right. Maybe an electric truck, different conversation. Sure. They're brilliant
it's
people.
It's not easy to work with. And plus it has issues with crashing, doesn't it?
I mean, it depends how you use it structurally, right? So you're not going to use stainless in crash structure,
right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So you know, typically the body panels are thin enough; they crumble, right? They're not really contributing as much. Now, I'm not an engineer in the Cybertruck, so I'm not sure exactly how they did that thing. I think they've done a lot of really awesome stuff. I've a lot of respect.
I've been trying to get the glass guy on for a while, but
That was awesome, by the way.
I heard that he's buried next to Jimmy Hoffa.
Yeah, might be
Underneath the stadium in Detroit.
next to the guy that had the rock, that gave Elon the rock or whatever.
Yeah.
Brick.
Yeah.
Here, try this.
Yeah. What marketing guy? That's because that's when they stopped getting rid. That's when the marketing guys got all fired at Tesla. Man, these marketing guys suck. Whose idea was this?
Right.
Okay, you take the rock and you throw it at the window, but stand 4.3 feet away. Not 4.3. And guess where he stood?
There's the line. Don't cross it. Yeah. So,
anyway.
So, with the stainless steel and let's see. So, so the gull wing doors, stainless steel, flux capacitor,
that's a good thing.
I dare not even say because, speaking of owning the rights to things.
Yes.
Right.
That is Universal or whoever it is would be all over you. Yes.
So,
whoever owns them now.
Maybe it's a flax.
Yeah, something like that.
A flax alternator?
I don't know.
A Hobnoster Frosticator
in the middle of the seats. That's what it is.
Right.
It's the old cigarette lighter where you press. We used to have those in the bomb dump where you press the button and it heats up and you can light your cigarette that way. That way you don't have a flame because you can't have flames in a bomb dump because something about they're bad.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. 88 miles an hour. Yes, it will go over 88.
But that was
our teaser.
Does it skip from 87 to 89 on the dashboard? That's what I want to know.
Oh my God. Yes.
You need to make your dashboard skip 88.
We did you always do like a movie reel basically in the show cars, right? So it kind of shows what would, different screens it goes through. And there's actually a really cool, we did it's obviously the car's not moving, but it goes up to 88 and then it would glitch and then it looked like the dash.
I love it.
So it went from new, glitch, old. So it was we were playing with a lot of the stuff like that.
Nice.
That's awesome.
So it's really awesome, right? So obviously it's incredible. I'm honored to be a part of it. It's a big responsibility. How do we honor the brand, but establish it not as just kind of knocking off the old. So there's definitely there's a lot to it, and I'll tell you, everyone has an opinion.
Oh, sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, with electric and without. Let's go back to DeLorean. So you and I were talking last year at Willow Springs, or actually a whole bunch of us were all sitting around drinking brewskis and talking. And you had I think the website actually showed an actual DMC, and then there was a transition car, and then your car. It was like a fake history of the DeLorean models.
Oh yeah. So what we had done is, prior to Pebble Beach is, again, with the Alpha 5 kind of being its own standalone vehicle as a, mid 2020s car,
right.
It's not going to be the DMC 12, right? So how do you explain a car that is 45 years newer than the last one that came out and it's still being part of the same brand without being that knockoff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what we did is we called it the generational or evolutionary design concepts. So we had like a 90s concept, a 2000s concept, and 2010s concept to kind of show, look, this is when some of those features that are on the Alpha 5, they were first introduced in 1993, right? And we even put specifications in a. I'm probably actually I might have some right here. I don't know where I put them. But we had these gifts at the beach at the house we were having the events at, and then we made trading cards effectively.
Oh, cool.
And we had trading cards of those generationals, and we actually put specifications on the back of what we think they would have had. And so, speaking of turbos, I think the 1994 version, we decided that what would have been on brand, I want to say it was a twin turbo V6.
Yeah, because that was about the time the Nissan and the Toyota, the Supra with the turbos and
so we said V6 probably would have been something we would have put in there, or to what DeLorean would have done. And one of the really cool things about the company too is that we have the original drawings, like hand done drawings. Cool. We also have a lot of the original paperwork for the patents that were filed that never got used. Right? Some really weird, wild stuff. I mean, John DeLorean, as much as, the end maybe wasn't so glamorous, that guy, I mean, he was Elon Musk before Elon Musk was existed, right?
Right.
You know, just rules didn't matter, and he had all these awesome ideas, these really really creative engineering ideas, just constantly flowing out of that guy's brain. And so, we were trying to use some of those ideas that never made it to the DMC-12. Like, how could we have used them moving forward? But yes, we wanted that generational thing to kind of just show how we got there, because we knew that people were going to say, this needs to be a DMC-12. It should be the DMC-13. That's what this car should be. We knew
Right.
people were going to have that opinion. So we wanted to show this is how we got there, right?
Right.
Like, do you want to buy a 1986
Right.
car in 2025?
Right.
It doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's like a lot of these kids that, I've been associated with the MR2s for a very, very long time. They all want a new MR2 to come out, but they want it to look like the one or be like the one in the 80s or the 90s. And, that it would never pass any crash tests.
Right.
Would never pass any emissions
Yeah.
tests.
Yeah.
Won't do any rollover tests. And there are just so many more. And in order to, even the lights, pop-up headlights, you can't have those anymore because of
Nope.
pedestrian laws.
Yep.
So there's just, and you have to be able to sell it everywhere in the world because
Yep.
one world.
Right.
Yep.
So yeah, and it's just it's funny that you just can't make another DeLorean because it would just never work.
Right.
So you guys have some DeLoreans, don't you? Some original ones.
Oh yeah, yeah. We've got one in the shop right now. Actually, we've got we have a DMC-12. I think it's an 83. There's like all these like little tiny differences.
Yeah, changes. Yeah.
I think that was the 83, and it's next to a couple of our show cars.
Nice.
Currently, kind of out in the shop where things just kind of sit and don't get touched.
Right.
So did you ever think about doing a DeLorean ChampCar?
Absolutely. I think it'd be really cool, but I mean, here's the thing, right? You got to do an engine swap. We got to do it. First thing. Now there's a guy or a place in San Diego that did the Kia Stinger GT. They put that turbo V6 into a DeLorean.
Oh, wow.
And so actually there's a shop, one of the restoration shops. There's 3 DeLorean restoration shops. There's one in Huntington Beach, California, just north of Houston, and then one in Florida. And they actually brought it to the restoration shop and said, look, we put this engine in here. It's incredible. However, we're going to die. So if you figure out how to make this thing not kill us, that'd be great.
Was it just alignment that, the alignment settings or just, throttle lift oversteer into a bank?
That would be my guess. That car isn't very well balanced to begin with. I'm not sure what they ended up doing with it, but so I don't know, maybe we put that in the back, right? Yeah. Something like that. But then, it's got that fiberglass tub. So the DMC-12 is built off of a Lotus platform.
Oh.
And so
do you know which one?
I believe it's the Esprit.
Oh, okay. All right.
And so it's actually got this the frame it's actually an X frame. So down the tunnel, and then it kind of has built-in subframes. So it looks like an X. And then the fiberglass tub hangs over it, right? That's partly why it's so low.
Yeah.
So how do you put a cage into something like that, which, speaking of safety, that thing wasn't safe to begin with, right?
No. I had talked to Ray about that, and I guess the Corvettes, because they're all fiberglass, they have special consideration on how there's a special way of installing a cage in a Corvette. So basically the same thing, but it would have to be on our VPI list, and it has the potential of beating E30s and Miatas. So it's going to be 600 points. So
maybe because most of us champ racers are just car nerds. Maybe everyone would just be like, just make it 0, make it 1 point, so it happens.
No,
no, they wouldn't.
No.
Zero chance.
Cannot be 76 points. Can't be any lower than the Opal.
All right, so with Ben, we actually did bring you on to talk to you about ChampCar.
Yeah,
and we could talk about this all day.
Well, let's do this one more time. Tell us about this weekend.
That's what
you were in a winning. Okay.
That was where
Brian.
I was going.
It's on my list of things. So you were arrive and drive this weekend because you live near the track. We were at MSR Houston.
Yeah, I live in.
I had never been there, and I'll tell you what, that is a beautiful track. It's a great place. I was expecting desert, you know, because I've driven through Houston, never really been there. I thought it was going to be just a bunch of oil derricks and oil or gasoline refineries everywhere. Nothing like that. It's out in the
No, it's
middle of green
actually
pastures.
it's
You
quite
know,
beautiful, actually. I have to agree with you.
yeah,
It reminded me a little bit of a non-desert version of Buttonwillow.
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
wow.
Um, and the track itself, actually, we'll get to the winning in the race
yeah.
continuing. But the track itself reminded me a lot of. It had Buttonwillow in it. It has Las Vegas outside road course in it.
Yes,
It's
yeah,
got some Chuck Wallet in it. It's actually I really quite like the track. It has that whole 3-4-5 complex. They call it like
yeah,
the Dirty Diamond or Diamond Cutter or something like that. I forgot what it's called. It's pretty tricky, right? And it's a lot like Star Mazda at Buttonwillow, where you have to go. Uh, Buttonwillow is it's mirrored the other way,
Right.
but at MSR Houston, you got to go right to go double left,
Got it.
right?
Okay.
all right,
So it's and you're coming in hot, right?
Yeah.
Because you're
Yeah.
coming out of that
yeah,
basically turn to carousel, and in a Miata with Aero, you're 3/4 throttle. You're coming out, I think, at 90 miles, 100 miles an hour almost, and then you're going down this little mini straight, and then you got to kink right, and then left, and it's got this weird. It's just
yeah.
it's
Well,
fun.
you
And
saw some of the cars with more suspension movement, and they were iffy through there. It was pretty cool watching them
yeah,
from
yeah,
my vantage.
I really like that track. I like it a lot better than Harris Hill, which is
Yeah,
between it's in San Marcos between
yeah,
San Antonio and Austin.
Right.
That track reminds me of the inside road course at Fontana, which
yeah.
is
Oh, okay.
not an actual racetrack. It's like pit, like
Parking.
it's parking for haulers for NASCAR. It
Yeah.
is not a racetrack.
So you want to know a funny story about that? So I think one of the last times you drove, it was the one when Leno was there.
Oh yeah. Well,
So
that was when we did Roval though. Back in the early days, we did the inside
just
road
did the
course
inside. Yeah,
only.
they wouldn't
Oh,
let
that.
you do. I don't
That's
think
right.
John could afford to go to the outside. I don't know.
I believe that was the case.
Yeah, but the so the playground, they call it the
Mhm.
playground.
Yep.
Before you get back onto the track, onto the oval part, uh, we had to go set up cones. And in the past, the track had done it. Well, for some reason, nobody did it. So Dana said, go set them up. So I'm like, well, hell, where do I put them? So I start looking around. I kind of remembered how it went. So I put all the cones out, and I take Leno and Adam Carolla.
Yeah.
I take them around for, for rides around the track before we started the race, to show them what we were doing for the show. And then as I approach it, I'm going, oh shit, I'm going way too fast. And I hit the brakes, and luckily I had a Mercedes. All the nannies kicked in and it kept me from rolling it. But I got through it, and I'm like, that was a little odd. Because I remember guys going a lot faster through there.
Mhm.
And the corner workers later on, when we were resetting everything up, the corner workers were laughing at us because they're like, I don't know why they put the cones there, because that's not where you put the cones. You put the cones another 15 yards out.
Right? Yeah.
So, and who wipes out the cones the first lap? Leno.
Mhm.
Hits every one of them. Boop, 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 boop.
Yeah, I remember that. Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That's
sorry,
fun.
Jay. So,
Yeah. Well,
yeah, didn't know.
But let's see. Okay, so back to
Oh yeah.
Houston.
So yeah. So
We're-
Houston, it's 107 degrees, and I'll tell you what, I was expecting a lot worse. I was expecting Willow Springs a couple of years ago when it was
Yeah,
115 plus.
Yeah.
The humidity was like, I swear to God, 97 degree or 97% humidity. Never been in that before in my life. That made the temperature not seem so bad. The humidity was bad.
Yeah.
And
Right,
the
right.
wind,
We're focused on humidity. Yeah.
yeah, the wind was really made it not as bad as Sunday, which was bad.
Yeah.
The wind wasn't as
Yeah, I agree. I agree. The temperature was tough, but it wasn't that bad. Right? Because I mean, I've been racing in the Southern California desert for the last
yeah,
13 years, right? So they're like, oh, it's gonna be 100. I'm like, it'll be fine. It'll
Yeah.
be just fine. And so no, I mean, so this is the second time I've raced with these guys. So it's Effective Team Racing.
hmm
They have what I would say. So it's Dennis and Tanya, and so Dennis builds the car, but Dennis and Tanya both race, and so they're a married couple. And I'll tell you, I'm going to shout out to Tanya right now. She is probably faster than most people watching this.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
She is quick,
Yeah.
very quick, and especially a track like Houston with a manual steering Miata with some pretty sticky fat tires on it, that's not a walk in the park. I mean, you're
No.
going through turn one and then the carousel, it's high speed and you are hanging on. I mean, I have a blister on my hand from just managing the wheel into turn one.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of effort, right? And so, they're fantastic. The car is fantastically prepared all the time. Dennis is the perfect guy you want to rent with.
So Dennis was really concerned on Friday about his alignment. He was doing something. The guys were complaining about a car not being able to turn. He did some alignment changes. I'm not going to tell you what he did because it might be his secret.
Well, I know.
But it worked. It seemed to work
It did.
really well.
It did. So they took the front aero package off. So he used to run, when I ran with them last September at Harris Hill, it was a full 9 lives aero package. 9 lives.
Yep.
And yeah, right. I saw that. I saw that stuff. Actually, it's on the back of my shirt.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
Shout out to all these people, by the way.
Yeah.
You know? And as what does Dana say? You got to take care of the sponsors, right?
Yes, that's right.
And so, but the risk, and we've had this risk, Bill, you've seen this happen on my car and yours as well.
Mm-hmm.
You have an off and you rip half the splitter off, and your race is smoked. Yep. And so they pulled the front aero off, which definitely tweaked the balance of the car. But I mean, we all had a couple of offs, and I can tell you one thing: I would rip the splitter off on one of mine for sure.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different, but yeah, the alignment was a lot different than what we did at Harris Hill, and the turn and bite is fantastic. I think the balance with having the wing and no front aero, there's still some high speed understeer, but it's super, super manageable. I mean, it's a Miata, right? Even with some understeer, it's very, very manageable. The car's fantastic. They're fantastic. And so, yeah, we kind of, the unfortunate thing is that Dennis and Tanya hadn't raced there in like 5 years since the last time Champ was there.
Right.
I had never been there before. I'd never even seen the track before. I watched probably 5 hours of videos, and you've got to sift through the videos that don't make any sense, right? There was one I found, and it was like some kid in an E30. He's like, "Oh, this is how you do the track," and I'm watching it. I'm like,
no,
this is so wrong. Like, I've never even been there before, and this guy's not even got the right idea.
Good entertainment, though.
Yeah, like, you got to sift through. But and then Paul, the other guy who was in the car, he'd also never been there before, and there was no, like, the Friday test day, there wasn't going to be one. So Paul and I didn't get there until Paul got there like 7:30 Friday night. I got there at 4:30, and we couldn't get in the car. And Dennis just did a shakedown, earlier, so we were pretty green.
Yeah.
And the car was absolutely fantastic. We ran a flawless race. Our pit stops were absolutely perfect. Everybody's banging out super consistent lap times, and everybody else on track was super clean. I think Dana even said there were no.
You look at the logs, and I didn't do the logs this weekend. So somebody, I guess Fowler did the timing and scoring, did the logs. So he's right in the mix of it. Nothing.
Yes.
I think their biggest concern up there in the tower was the AC wasn't working. It was 85 degrees in the room with a bunch of smelly guys. So.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But yeah, I mean, it was really, the race was fantastic. There was, we ended up, it was that Nissan, that 240.
Yeah.
That was chasing.
They won on Sunday.
Winning on Sunday. That thing is quick. And I think that they had an early issue, and it put them back a couple of laps, and they were, almost fighting. They were clawing them back. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
They're really good drivers too. They started out Champ, went to WRL. Couldn't afford it up there, or something to that effect, and then has come back down. So not down, come back laterally to Champ.
Yeah, came back up to Champ.
That's right. Made the step back
minor
up.
leagues of WRL. Come on.
So
honestly, I think, and I've done this for years, especially tracks I didn't know. I always use a reference years and years ago. It was like my first or second time at Sonoma, which is one of my all-time favorite tracks. And there was a 1.6 liter spec Miata, right? Which, I mean, those engines are tough to drive with. They're just they've got no oomph at all.
Right.
30 horsepower when you only got 120 or 125 is a lot to get up to like the 150, 160 and the 1.8s. And I remember I was just, this guy's just chasing me down and passes me. I'm like, there's no way. And we had to do that the lunch stop. And so I came behind him. I'm like, what? Where's the turbo? Right? Like, what's going on? And the guy was, almost as old as you, Bill. And he's like, I've been racing here
Yeah.
since probably before you were born. Right. And
Yeah.
he's like, I'll wait for you. I'll give you 2 laps. I won't pull away. Follow and learn. And I dropped 3 seconds.
Wow.
3 seconds on like a 2:10 lap. And I was like, blew my mind. So
Yeah,
those guys,
a guy did that to me at Road Atlanta, and I'll tell you what, best thing ever.
yeah, best thing
Just follow
ever.
me. Yeah,
And like afterwards, I get out of my seat, I go find him like, thank you so much.
yeah.
And so same thing with those Nissan guys. Honestly, like they got around me. I was the first one in the car on Saturday, and I was like, all right, well, let's see what happens. And that was huge. Learning, I'm like, okay, oh, I see what they're doing. Oh, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Right. And you just start to figure. I mean, it's a different car, but
Yeah.
still, there's the lines and where the grip is
Sure.
was really really great.
Cool.
So it was fun watching you guys race on Sunday, because I set up over at the last turn, taking pictures there, and watching you guys in the Wheels America Miata battle, and it was for position, so it was pretty intense watching you guys. One guy would lock up going into the corner, snap, snap, snap. Got pictures of that. Next lap, the next guy would lock it up because he's just trying to not dive bomb, but he's trying to get that late brake, because that was the only way he could catch up, was to late brake and just get it right on the edge, lock up that left front tire as he's starting to turn in, and try to get underneath him to kind of go, and couldn't do it. And yeah, it was pretty wicked. And I think what hurt them was they had a mixed radio call, and that car came in when he shouldn't have, and so they they pitted. Somebody said box, 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 and they thought it was for him, and he came in, but it was for the other car.
Oops.
So
yeah, we saw them come in. We're like, hey, I'm not going to argue, right?
Yeah, no, nobody.
That's right.
No. And it's interesting, like talking about like car setup and whatnot, is they, both of their Miatas are running the full aero, right?
Yeah.
Front splitter, air dam. I think those
Well,
guys
one of them
are-
kind of lost theirs.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
And so, we were, Dennis has the car so well set up that I don't think there was nobody that I think caught up when I was in the car through the carousel, right? Going down into that 3-4, 2-3-4-5, whatever that complex is down there, that demon thing, right? And it was wild, right? Kind of, are you going to try? And the real thing is, are you really going to try to go to the inside there?
Yeah.
Right. And outbreak, because there's, the track goes from this and then it kinks. So like, it feels like it does.
Seems like it goes in, like NCM does that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, I think I almost did it one time. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it. This is not my car. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So go ahead.
No, Sunday was great. I was the last one in the car.
So you were locking them up.
Oh yeah.
No, it wasn't every time, but it was. I mean, it would look like a tough race. I mean, every time I could only see like half the course, so I'm thinking, okay, when they come around the bus stop at the top is when I would first see you. They're slow. Oh, they're nose to tail, or oh, he got 4 car lengths ahead of him. Oh, now he's catching back up. It was such a fun race to watch.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to be in it. And then at the end, we were, I think, 3 laps behind that Escort, and I was taking off like 6 to 8 seconds a lap, and I needed like an extra 10 minutes or 15 or something to catch him. And I got 2 laps undone, and I finally said, like, I knew I wasn't going to hold in the lap, and I just wanted to catch him one more time, because like when that it's the last stint, you need to bring it home, right? You're not going to get another position. No one's going to catch you from behind. You're kind of you're insulated on both sides. And then they're like, look, you're going to just miss catching him for one more lap. And I was like,
yeah.
And I was I think it was like through the keyhole is when I finally caught him and passed him on the very last lap to just then be on the same lap. And I was like, yeah. And that's fun, right? That's what it's really about, is having something to try, like, and he's a little bit closer and a little bit closer and a little bit closer. It was a lot of fun. It was absolutely, it was a blast. So
Ben,
well,
thanks for being with us.
Yep. We could go on all night.
Yeah, we could.
Oh,
we could.
Billy, Bill, you and I have done this for hours at tracks after.
Yeah.
Even after the race, we're sitting here talking during the race. Oh, the race is over. Well, what were we talking about a minute ago? Yeah.
Well,
the amount of times that my wife is like, "Hey, everyone's gone. Can we leave?" I'm just chatting with Bill.
And we didn't get to talk about Jamie. So Jamie has not been in any of my conversations for, I don't know, 6-7 months. And all of a sudden yesterday or this past weekend, we're talking about Jamie. And guess what I wake up to this morning? Bill, why don't you make t-shirts for women? Because the ones you do are too hard on my nipples or something like that. I don't know. But he wants soft baby butt, softness t-shirts made by ChampCar.
I mean, in all fairness, those really soft t-shirts, those are the jam. He's not wrong. I'll give him that.
Well, if he comes to a race within the last year, he would know that they're good shirts now.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. He's not racing as much back out west.
Jamie.
Sir, Mr. Jamie, looking at you, Jamie.
It bothers his autism.
We're going right down.
Funny, Mark
we've just I don't know.
Or is it my autism? One of the two. I don't know.
One of them. Hey, before you guys let me go, there's one thing I have to say. One thing, because Michael Kingsley texted me like an hour and a half ago. He's like, I'm gonna read the text because you're going to appreciate this.
Yes.
And I'm gonna call out Bob Mink too. And Michael, if you're please tell me you're listening. Text me and says, shit, where is it? I hear you talking to Bill. Don't forget to tell him how awesome Arrow is and how every team should bolt on as much as possible.
Yes. Because they don't have any Arrow on their car. None whatsoever.
Yeah, the Rotoplukers in California, with the FCRX7, which I rented with them, and we won the last time I raced with them as well for their first win.
And Bob Mink is like one of the big engineers at VW too.
Yeah. So and Bob, he's OG as well. All those guys.
Oh yeah. Well, Bob was our first CEO, so our first board chair. That was it. Board chair.
Yeah.
All right, so we need to get going because we have time limits.
Yeah,
we'll have you on again, man, and we'll talk even more. Maybe we'll do the the Bill and Ben show.
Oh boy.
That's awesome.
Yeah. There's not enough time on the internet for that.
Oh,
yeah, we get Jamie on here too. That would be funny.
All right. Ben Marquart, thanks for being with us. Had a great time. We'll get you on again, I'm sure.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks. Pleasure being here.
All right. Next up, we've got the Winner's Circle interviews from Houston coming right up now.
Are you an effective team?
We're an effective team. Every single one. Yeah, we're an effective team.
I know that reference.
Oh yeah, I know you do. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, the first event we ever did. Yeah.
So, hell of a race today with the heat, the wind, the humidity, just everything.
It's pretty toasty. Yeah, pretty toasty. I mean, right from the green flag this morning, it was hot. We knew it was going to be something to manage. Everybody did really good. But I think, everybody did real good, kept a clear head, stayed out of trouble, consistent. It takes a lot, not just a lot of good things happening, but a lot of luck. And it worked out today.
So tell me about your fuel towards the end there. Were you conservative?
I was on empty. Yeah, I was on empty, but
watch you putting down some hot laps, and then all of a sudden you were not.
Yeah, and then the tires get hot. You gotta let them cool off a little while, but and you gotta cool off a little while. But just managing. Definitely today, everybody was just having to manage all those things.
So who are your drivers today?
We got Paul, Ben, my wife Tanya, and crew helping out. Tom, Adrian, couldn't have done it without them too. So it just was a big team effort. Everything went really well. Stops went really well. Everybody drove clean, stayed out of trouble, and that's what it takes.
So what's the strategy for tomorrow?
Do it again.
All right, guys, congrats. Win here at MSR Houston.
Thank you, man.
Bill Strong down here with Split 5. Today's winner here at MSR Houston. Took off, pretty much controlled the day.
Yeah, it was great going last because my brother and Andy and my other brother who left put up crazy lap times for 5 straight hours. And so when I got out there, I just had to keep it on the track. So it was nice.
So all you had to do was just do consistent laps and keep it on the track.
Keep it on the track for 2 hours. I didn't even, so it was nice. It made my job real easy. Yeah.
So a lot better than yesterday. How the tires look today?
So we're not running the tires we like to run. And so the backs are done. We swapped the fronts. And so the fronts are good, but the rear end is all over the place.
It looked like it going into the last turn there. It looked pretty rough towards the end.
Yeah. So, just keeping it on the track. Good thing I didn't have to, compete real hard. I just had to bring it home. So
Some of those little Miatas are getting a bit racy there.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I wasn't gonna fall for their. I want to get sucked into a race with the Miatas. I had to swallow my pride and let them go. Yeah.
Where are you guys going to race at next?
We'll do Harris Hill in September.
More we'll see you there.
More Miatas.
Yeah, there are tons there.
Yeah.
All right, man. Congrats. Win today.
Appreciate it.
Welcome back. Inside ChampCar. Bill Strong with the graphics and the
Yeah,
swipes and the
I'm
music.
getting better. Getting better. Learn how to
it.
use slides and wipes and whatever.
Nice.
Stingers are next.
Nice. Oh,
Hey,
gosh, no.
So we're headed to Colorado
Yeah.
here in a week and a half,
Cool.
and get to fly out, get my first electric car. We'll talk about that. Maybe I'll
Talk
take
about that
pictures of
next
it or
week when I'm
video.
not here.
Yeah. Yep. Oh yeah, you're not here next week, are
I'm
you?
not. No.
So we got to quickly hurry up. I've got a big update. So Flagtronics, if you've got Flagtronics, I'd like you to download the Flagtronics device manager. Go ahead and download, go ahead and plug it in. Download the latest version, which is 0.6.1.6.
Got it.
Big long, and we're going to send out an email this week all about it. But it adds some features, and it also, remember how when you go into a yellow, it's purple 35 is out and you go into a yellow, it may turn back yellow. It won't do that anymore. So we
Nice.
fixed that. Not fixed it.
Yeah,
We've got an
update.
override for ChampCar because that's the way we're doing it.
Right.
I think other series do it too, but basically it'll stay purple the whole time. So all of a sudden you're not back to racing accidentally and get past or whatever.
All right.
So that has some fixes in it. We want you to have that for Colorado and the VIR 24. If for some reason you're computer illiterate, because 99.9% of the computer engineers that race in ChampCar come up to me and say they are computer illiterate. So we will have staff on site that will be able to update your units, and we're probably going to go to every car, even if you did it yourself already, and double check and just make sure everybody has it. That way everybody's on the same level playing field.
Cool.
And make sure that you've got it plugged in properly and that kind of stuff. So
Nice.
we're going to continue to do that for the time being and to help everybody out.
Cool.
But yep. So, off to Colorado. And then we got the VIR 24. Just talked to Lifeline today. They've got some great prizes they're going to be bringing and giving away. I've also picked up the champagne for the top 3 cars.
Nice.
Sorry, sparkling wine because it's California.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, I can't call it champagne because that's Champagne, France.
Correct.
But yep, sparkling wine for the top 3 cars. And we have the watches, 6 watches. Somebody asked me how many today. 6 watches for the winning drivers of the winning car.
Nice.
And hopefully we might have some more prizes and such. So yeah, we will be racing. And hey, guess what? I found out today. Well, I found out a week or so ago, but I forgot to mention it. I'm going to be driving for Wittenauer in the Mini at
Cool.
the VIR 24. So that's my pick to win that race.
Bless
so
them.
we'll talk about that later.
We'll pray for them.
Yes.
Not you, them.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
All right, that's going to do it for another episode of Inside ChampCar. If you like what you heard, subscribe to the podcast or the YouTube channel so you won't miss any episodes. Also, it'd be great if you share it on your social media channels. Comment on the ChampCar Facebook page. We have a new podcast every week. He is Bill Strong. I'm Brian Bielanski. You are listening to the Racing Wire Podcast Network, and you are watching ChampCar live on YouTube. I'll be back in 2 weeks. Bill will be here next week. Have yourself a great weekend.
And Spotify.
And Spotify.